Hey, thank you for joining us for another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. We appreciate you watching. Joining me is Emily DeToto, a former prosecutor and defense attorney, and Andy Kahn, crime victims advocate with Crime Stoppers. Hope you all fared well in the storm. How'd you do, Emily?
I did great. I live in a high rise, so fortunately we didn't lose any power or anything.
Good.
So I feel blessed, but I also feel a little bit guilty. But we're all safe and sound.
Andy, you lost power for a while.
I lost power. I visited every Starbucks, Barnes & Nobles. I think I read every nonfiction true crime book that they had available.
Is it true that you got arrested for loitering?
I also made myself extremely home at the Homewood Suites. Thank you. You probably had no idea that I made your lobby my home, and also watched the ball game there.
Cool.
Even changed the channel. So
Wow.
yes,
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I hope everybody is okay from it. Of course, like any disaster, unfortunately, we saw criminals, take advantage of the situation. Andy, you've kind of been tracking some folks that were breaking into buildings.
Yeah, I actually bailed you out of doing a hurricane story last Wednesday.
That's right.
Remember, I said, you know what? Randy really doesn't need to be out in the elements.
He's too old for this.
I've got a pitch. So I said, hey, I've started noticing, look, there was 17 people booked in Tuesday for burglary of a building. You don't normally see that many people on when you check the district clerk. And then I started noticing the following day, here's another 13. I said, hey, here's a hurricane story. It's related, but the best news is you don't have to stand outside.
Right.
So I said, we got, at that time, about 30 people charged with breaking into businesses during a declared disaster, Hurricane Beryl.
And a lot of those folks were out on bond.
Some of them were on bond. Some of them had lengthy criminal convictions. And the two that we profiled. Okay, let me ask you this,
Okay.
Mr. Toto. So let's go look at Mr. Flores.
Okay.
Mr. Flores has 5 prior felony convictions.
Okay.
He is currently on probation, deferred adjudication, for assault of a pregnant woman. He's popped her 3 times.
Admitted to that.
Yes,
Oh,
in,
wow.
in
Yeah.
the face.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. So he's on probation. While he's on probation, he fails to show up to report to a probation officer.
Right, which is
That's
a violation.
It's not
Yeah.
that hard. So
Right.
a year later, he's found in Kennedy County,
Okay.
and he gets 2 convictions there,
Right.
evading arrest and a theft charge. They give him probation.
Wow.
So now he's on probation in Kennedy County and on probation in Harris County.
Right.
They filed a motion to adjudicate because, I don't know, maybe things have changed, but I guess if you get another conviction
Right.
while
That's
you're
how
on.
that's
That's
how
how
it
it's
normally
supposed
works.
to be.
Right.
Yeah.
The 351st District Court gives him a PR bond
Oh wow.
on the MAG, the motion to adjudicate instead of keeping him behind bars
Right.
for that. So while he's on the PR bond and on multiple probations, he gets charged with breaking into a business.
Wow. During a declared
During-
disaster.
Yes.
Correct.
And out on a personal recognizance
Right.
bond.
And so what did he get? What kind of bond did he get on the 3rd degree burglary of a building?
Right now, he's in custody. They've
Uh-huh.
given him a $50,000 bond.
Right.
So I'm keeping an eye to see whether he'll actually get back out again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Despite being on multiple probations, despite having a lengthy criminal history. And then the other one we profiled, he had 10 prior felony
My
convictions.
goodness.
10.
Wow.
Including
Yeah.
aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. So despite 10 felony, he's also out on 3 bonds as well.
Right.
And then he gets popped for breaking into a business
Right.
as well. So he remains in custody as well. So right now, I am up to about 50 defendants
That's
who are
crazy.
charged.
That's crazy.
And one thing that can happen, their punishment could be enhanced.
Right.
Explain that.
Explain this.
So normally burglary of a building is a state jail felony,
Which is 2 years,
which is 6 months to 2 years.
6 months,
Yeah.
at the Pam Litchner State Jail.
At the state jail facility, and a fine of up to $10,000. However, if you're enhanced, let's say you have 2 prior felonies, that would be enhanced. But if you are accused of burglary of a building during a declared disaster declaration, that bumps up the punishment range to a third-degree felony, which is 2 years to 10 years TDC, and a fine of up to $10,000.
And who would decide that? The DA's office
The DA's
would decide
office,
it?
right? And so, in any indictment, they would have the original charge that they're accused of, and then the enhancement paragraph of the disaster declaration.
I mean, that's a pretty big difference between a
yeah.
2-year
Right.
state jail felony and 3
Right.
to 10 in prison.
It's totally, so the maximum on a state jail is 2 years. On a third degree, you start at 2 years. And so that's a major, major enhancement.
And it's disturbing to think that anybody could take advantage of someone during a time like this.
Right.
I mean, when we're in a hurricane, recovering from a hurricane.
Right. I mean, it is disturbing, but I can see the flip side of that argument that a defense attorney might make is that they themselves are desperate. They themselves don't have any power or water, and they themselves are out of necessity, and I'm not saying it's correct,
Right.
but they might make the defense that it's out of necessity that they're having to break into buildings or choosing to break into buildings to get supplies just to live during a disaster.
You hear so much. That kind of reminded me. You see this stuff on social media where allegedly linemen are being
threatened.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of people have been arrested and charged for doing that.
Right, assault. I believe I saw a story where a lineman was threatened by someone with a gun.
Yeah.
Threatened with a gun. He also has multiple prior convictions, and he was also on probation. You actually talked to a business owner, didn't you? Wednesday?
Yeah.
You went. Yeah.
Yeah, from when we did
Wednesday,
that story
right.
last Wednesday. Yeah, and they were closed. They had no power.
Right.
And a group of thieves came in twice.
Right.
And just luckily, the HPD was in the area and saw them, and that's how they got apprehended.
What type of business was it? Like
it was a beauty wig kind of place.
Oh,
So that
it's
kind of
not
defeats
type
that kind of defeats
Right.
the I
Right.
need.
Yeah. You
Right.
know. No
Yeah.
one needs hair extensions.
Not during yeah.
Right.
Well, especially if
Speak
you
for
don't.
yourself, but
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
But yeah, it wasn't like stealing bread
Or ice or anything like that.
And it's hard. I can't even fathom. Well, supposedly one story going around was this woman. I guess she went up to a lineman and was like, "Hey," demanding that he go to her house
first.
which it doesn't work that way.
Right. Well, and that also speaks to the desperation. I mean, I know some people who still don't have power.
Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't give you the right to break the law, but the argument could be made that they were just at the end of their rope. Maybe they were on oxygen. Maybe they had a newborn child. Maybe,
Yeah.
there's so many
I can
maybes.
see that for someone who's never had any involvement
Right.
in the criminal justice. I can definitely see that as a mitigating factor.
Right.
Yeah.
But most of the ones that we're seeing, so here's
They're career
so
criminals.
here's one right here. I call them the Thompson twins. Probably nobody out there it does even
Sing the
remembers
song,
the
Emily.
Thompson
Hold me now. That was a
So
good song.
the Thompson twins are probably getting more pub right now than they've
ever.
had in 20 plus
They're probably
30
thanking you
years.
for resurrecting their
Right
career.
now. So here's one of these guys right here. So he's actually been on bond since 2019.
Wow.
In 2019, he was on bond for felony theft. Then he got popped for felon in possession of a prohibited weapon, a gun. So now he's back out on bond. So he's on bond March of 19, May of 21, June of 21, June of 24, February of 24. He's also on bond for evading arrest. So he's on like 6 bonds
Right.
since 2019.
And that in itself, for 5 years, you're going to be
Yeah.
on bond?
Well, I mean, we did have COVID during that time.
That's
so,
true.
That
That's true,
could cause
yeah.
a delay.
But still, that's
Right.
too long.
Well, that just speaks to the revolving door that we're all, witnessing.
Yeah.
And then
He
it just,
was scheduled for jury trial in August
right of last year.
this year.
Oh,
So,
this. Well, we'll see what happens with
I'm
that.
going to bet that's
Right. We'll see what happens with that.
he just
Right.
added to his plate, right?
Well, that speaks to, when people are on bond, you would think that they would get their act together.
Right.
They would do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because their family put up collateral and put up money.
Yes.
But
And also, too, if you're falsely accused of a crime,
right. You
I mean,
don't want
if
to
that
make
was
matters
me,
worse.
Right. If that's me, I'm gonna really walk the straight and narrow
Right.
and make sure that I don't have any more dealings
Right.
with police.
Right, and we talked about this one of the last times I was on, the issue of making matters worse. So if you're getting pulled over for DWI,
Yeah.
accused of DWI, you just stop your car and let let law enforcement do their investigation. But I've seen often where people will just will drive off. Now we've got an evading in a motor vehicle. God forbid they get in an accident.
Yes.
God forbid they kill someone. So it's all about making matters worse. And it seems to be, this is a prime example of that.
I'll get another interesting thing is, looking at it, obviously there's some of them are back out on bond, but very interesting. I think maybe one or two have only been given a PR personal recognizance bond.
Yeah.
So I think the judiciary themselves is also recognizing
Right.
we just can't hand out.
Well, and what have we noticed too? A lot of times these real low bonds or PR bonds are coming from a magistrate, a visiting judge. In the situation from last week's breaking bond, wasn't that a visiting?
No, that
judge?
was actually the 351st because we were going.
That's right.
We're going. I can't believe you actually signed off on a PR
Yes.
bond.
Not
who's
a
got
Cornelio.
multiple,
Just not a
who's got
Cornelio.
multiple
Yes.
felony bonds,
Right.
including assault of a pregnant woman who didn't even show up to the probation department.
Yeah.
And you're signing off on a PR bond?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one raised some eyebrows.
Yeah. And that kind of shows what the mindset is with some of these judges.
Right. Well, and like I said before, the judges are given information from the DA's office regarding an accused person's prior criminal history. And back in the day, their prior criminal history used to be used for the judge would take that into consideration when they're setting a bond.
Yeah.
Now, I did speak with some bondsmen the other day. I spoke at one of their meetings, and they said that what they've seen is judges are giving low bonds, but they're trying to compensate by putting a bunch of bond conditions on that bond.
Right.
And so, trying to justify the low bonds.
But even that, again, you go back to the whole electronic monitoring. I mean,
Right.
no one's really monitoring
Right.
anybody.
So
Well,
I'm going to give a big shout out now to Jerome Tyler.
Why?
Actually, it's weird because you got these brother combinations. The Thompson,
Yeah.
Tyler's also his other brother, but
Right.
Jerome kind of sticks out. So he's on probation for burglary
Uh-huh.
and continuous violence against the family.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's on 2 probations, right?
Uh-huh.
He gets charged with burglary of a building, breaking into a business during a disaster. Despite being on 2 probations, he just bonded out.
Oh, wow.
What was his bond?
His bond was $50,000.
So $5,000 and he's on.
Yeah, but he's already on 2 probations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Well-
again, you violated the terms
Right.
of your probation.
Right. Well, yeah.
Technically correct. The judge could say, "Hey, Mr. Tyler, or whatever his name is, you're going to just go to jail now. You're going to be locked up because you violated your probation."
So the burden is on the state to file the motion to revoke
Right.
probation and a motion to adjudicate. And back in the day, it didn't take a lot to revoke someone, either from a motion to revoke probation or a motion to adjudicate.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about off camera, the burden of proof on a motion to adjudicate or a motion to revoke probation is lower than a beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
And so many times back in the day, they would move forward on the hearing on the motion to adjudicate and the motion to revoke probation, knowing that the burden of proof is lower. And so, I mean, it takes very little. It would take a probation officer to come into court and say, this was John Smith, he was the probationer, and then they would call the police officer to say, I arrested him for this and this. So,
yeah, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
all it would take.
Right.
Yeah. It just, again, to me, the most troubling thing about all of this is the message that you're sending.
Right.
If you're going to tell me that I can pick up charge after charge after charge and you're just going to keep letting me out
Right.
with the revolving door, why would I stop committing crime?
Right. Well, that's what we talk about all the time. It's if you're not going to be held to the standard of towing the line, and you get a slap on the wrist and then you get let out, there's really little incentive to get your act together.
Right.
And that's why we're going to be monitoring and tracking the 50-plus defendants. And so I think the public deserves to know, especially the business community,
Right, and
what
two,
the outcome's going
right,
to be.
and law enforcement, they've kind of publicly said, we're not going to put up with this
They
stuff.
keep putting them all out. That's how I keep going.
Right.
Thank you
So,
very much.
Yeah,
Well, here's the problem. It serves a chilling effect on law enforcement. If they're going to put their lives on the line, go out during a disaster when they probably don't have power or water,
When they're dealing
they
with
probably have
everything,
children.
too.
They're not going to. They're less incentivized to make these arrests because they're not, people are just getting away with it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andy. We need to follow those and see exactly what happens, how many end up with an enhancement because they allegedly committed the crime during a disaster.
So speaking of following,
yes,
you
let's talk
remember-
about Aubrey.
no, let's go back to remember the big press conference on the auto theft sting that they had? People that in organized crime stealing all these cars, including
Yes,
Reggie
yes.
Jackson's car as well.
Right, a big deal. It was-
Big deal.
yes.
25 people, man. That was huge.
Broke up this huge, sophisticated 25-member
So,
auto
again,
theft
in
ring.
my warped and demented mind, I'm going, okay, arresting him is fine. Now,
What's gonna happen
Now
to
the
him?
real story begins. So I spent today and I looked at all the defendants, and most of them have been adjudicated. Their cases are disposed.
And what's the
so
number
of
total?
the 25, 5 are
25.
actually in big boy prison.
Only 5 out of
5
25 are
actually
in prison.
TDC.
Okay.
10 were given deferred adjudication, meaning they were put on probation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Three cases were dismissed. None of them is yours.
Okay, good. Yes.
You did not get
Good.
anybody dismissed on this. 2 were sentenced to state jail. 4 are still on bond, and 1 got a whopping 30-day sentence.
What do you think about
What was the time frame?
It was
When was this?
23 to 20.
it went on for
it
several
went for a
months,
couple-
right?
Yeah, it went for about a year's time period.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It
And
was
then-
a sophisticated I mean, it wasn't just jumping in somebody's car and
Right.
stealing it.
No, the ringleader they nailed. They sentenced
Yes.
him to like 30 years in prison.
Wow.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Everyone else pretty much got, chump change, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But
What
Well-
do you think about that?
what do I think about it?
Yeah.
Again, it just brings the message on what we're doing with so-called nonviolent offenders.
Right.
And I've always said nonviolent offenders actually wreak more havoc in a community
Yeah.
than most violent. Most people don't go around killing people,
Right.
all that violent stuff. But people will go around stealing your property
Right.
and breaking into you because that's what they do.
Yeah.
And that's the message is that even if we catch you, it's like a Tom and Jerry cartoon game. We got you now. We'll put you in a little cage. Then a few months you're coming back out, and we begin this whole spin cycle
Right.
again.
And if somebody's living, paycheck to paycheck and they're just barely getting
Right.
by, losing their car for a few days could mean
Right.
they lose their job.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about. Is it's the after. You're absolutely right. Most people don't go out hurting other people, but it's the aftermath of property crimes that the victim has to deal with. For example, every car I've had has been broken into except the one I'm driving right now, and I probably just jinxed myself. But I have to get the window fixed. Well, first I have to clean out all the glass,
Yeah.
and it never goes away. Then I have to get my window fixed, and God forbid it's raining on the way to the window place.
Right.
These
And
are
if
all
you have a
out-of-pocket expenses.
Right. If you
No
have
one-
a deductible,
right.
you got to pay
Right.
the deductible.
And I have to get my license replaced and my purse. All these things that, there's the aftermath of property crime. It's no joke.
And you have to worry about somebody using your identity
Right.
or using your credit card.
Right.
And
At one time, someone broke into my car. They took my garage door opener. I don't know why I had it in there, but there was pictures of my grandmother who was deceased, my wallet. I mean, just keys to my car, or spare
It's
keys
strange
to my car.
some of the stuff you take. My car was broken into a long time ago, and they took a gym bag. And my
Yeah.
gym, I had my baseball glove, left-handed. What are you
Right.
gonna do with my left-handed baseball glove?
Right.
That really, if I see that today, I'm gonna go get
You're
that.
gonna know that was yours.
There's no statute of limitations on stealing someone's baseball
Baseball
glove.
glove, right.
Right.
let's talk about Aubrey Davis. Aubrey Davis is infamous for breaking bond. Tell us why.
We did this story back in March, and the reason we kind of featured Aubrey Davis because I've never seen so many bonds in my life.
She had the most we've ever found.
In such a short time span. I think there was 16 total in less than a year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And all property, all stealing, basically, for the most part stealing, except for the one she actually got caught on, which was a robbery. Then she tried to run somebody.
Yes, she's accused of stealing from Subway, the Subway on Shepherd, and then apparently one of the workers went out to try to stop Aubrey
Her from
Davis and her
stealing?
accomplice, and they ran over her.
Here's a direct quote. Most people don't have this many bonds in their lifetime, said
Emily
Me,
DeToto.
yes.
you said that. For this individual to have this many bonds in a year is astounding. You ever seen
And that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
it's true. I'm
It
looking
is-
at it right now. 16 bonds since 2023.
We need to contact Guinness Book of World Records.
Right?
Most
Get Aubrey in there
bonds,
now.
So
you know.
it's within a calendar year. If one of them was set on June 16th of 23, and we're in July,
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's
That
just
is.
Harris
That's just
County,
crazy.
too.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
yeah.
she was also on bond in Galveston County, Fort Bend County, and Brazos County.
Right.
And Aubrey
So-
gets probation.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Let's find out. Maybe maybe they actually threw the book at her this time.
Yeah. Nope.
Gets 4 years deferred adjudication. I'm going, okay, how are you giving someone probation who's had 16 different bonds
Right.
in a year and a half, who's also on bond in other counties and is still on bond pending their cases?
Yeah.
Right.
How do you justify that one?
So that's what we talked about before. It's the two agencies, or however many agencies, not talking to each other. As a former prosecutor, when someone was on probation for an offense, if they got arrested in Harris County, we would immediately notify the other county.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just not happening, or they just don't care.
Yeah. It makes no sense. And why would you deferred probation if you've got a lengthy criminal history? What difference is it going to make that you didn't that one particular
Didn't defer
felony
mean for like your first time offense?
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
You can
normally.
expunge,
Yeah,
right?
you were giving somebody
Right.
a chance that maybe it was their first or second run-in with the law,
Right.
and that's totally understandable. People should get that chance.
Right. There's mitigating factors, but also there, from what I'm seeing here, there are obviously aggravating factors, because these offenses, although they're property related, she's escalated to violence.
Yes.
And that's yet another thing that we talk about is escalation. If they're not having consequences to criminal behavior, then they might be bound to escalate.
Right, right. I mean, she's just, when you look at her and her situation, in my opinion, she's a perfect example of how screwed up the criminal justice system is.
It's definitely not the same as it used to be.
You should go interview her now. You really should. Bring her.
should, yeah.
Bring her a Subway.
Oh my goodness.
Bring.
Aubrey,
bring-
let's meet at
bring her-
Subway.
bring her-
My treat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would want to. What goes through your mind? How do you determine which store to break into?
And
I'd
what are
love
you
to know
stealing
that.
from a Subway?
Yeah.
Right.
What are you stealing
And
from a
these
Subway?
days, you would
There's-
think that these places with cash registers are not going to have a lot of.
No,
they
not in
drop
this day
the
and
money.
age,
Yeah,
yeah.
you might.
I mean, when's the last time you've used cash?
I'm big on cash. so
Okay,
you
I'm
don't
not
ask
big on
me.
cash
You
at all.
shouldn't say that publicly. You
Oh yeah,
just
right.
Put yourself
Yeah, you're just
out.
gonna get robbed on the way
But
out
I
here.
don't carry a lot of cash.
Hold on. Let's strike that from the record.
Right.
Let's redirect the
Right,
question
yes.
on that. I carry little cash,
Right.
mostly
That's right.
coins.
Just tell them
Right.
what kind of car you're driving while you're
I
at it.
work for Fox. I'm poor. So
Right. Yes. Okay.
I know.
What
Look
did
at
I
the
tell you?
flimsy water we got.
I know.
Right.
We had to wrestle it out of his hands. to
Yeah,
get
they
it.
did. Hey,
With
listen,
rodents.
we're about out of time
How do you know we're out of time? Did
because
someone-
someone in my
Oh,
ear is
okay. I
telling
was
me
curious
that.
on that. Okay.
Yes.
So-
Am I correct? Are we almost out of time?
It seems like we've been talking for a long time, but
Somebody doesn't run in here with like
Right.
a cue card
Right,
yeah.
and say 1 minute and you're done.
It's just not that sophisticated.
no.
But
But it
this
is
is
fancy.
this is nice,
This
isn't
is
it?
really nice.
Yeah, this is.
It's
yeah,
really
this is-
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels weird not
Beach
being.
Crime Stoppers, right?
Right.
Same background.
Well, they have
We
better
need to-
water and
Right.
snacks and candy. So.
Yeah.
We have everything.
Yeah.
You'll have to
You
bring.
need who's your news director here? Who's the we need to have a talk.
You do. You do. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you joining us, and remember to be kind to yourself. Yeah. No.
Yes.
Not
watch
No.
Tonight.
This is Wednesday. Watch
Oh,
next
watch.
Breaking Bond every Tuesday night at 9
Right, but not
tonight.
one.
Well, no, the Breaking Bond is going to be on tonight.
This is
right?
behind
The
Breaking.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, all right.
behind
But
Breaking.
this will be on a
but
day later.
We're going to be on after the All-Star game, right?
There you go. There
Right.
you go.
So,
So
don't
be
go
sure-
extra innings.
Keep watching the news after the All-Star game. Hey,
Yeah.
be kind to yourself and everyone else. Thank you so much for watching.